In this video, I'll be sharing with you a tutorial on how to cut and sew this stylish transparent conical cone corset. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please go ahead to hit on the subscribe button. If you're still having issues on how to cut and sew your perfect corset pattern, join us on our corset class, which is starting on the 31st. I'm going to be showing you how to draft your basic corset pattern, how to contour your cup properly to have a deep corset cup, and also how to make your corset for a beginner. To join, go ahead to send us a message on our WhatsApp number. So here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement for my pattern. So I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2. So note, this corset pattern, there are other ways to cut it out. You can also cut it as a dartless corset and cut out your corset cup. So I'll be using this method to draft out this corset. So I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2, come down by 1 inch, and I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler and draw a slanted line for my shoulder. Next, I'll find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll mark a straight line there. I'll place back what I have on my shoulder, and I'll place my ruler to draw out a straight line. Now I'll divide my shoulder into 2 by folding my tape, and I will mark. Come out by ½ inch. Go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 here. After marking that, I'll go ahead to connect from my bust circumference to the ½ inch and to the upper part of my shoulder. Now I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline. Next, I'll go ahead to mark my dart. And to mark your dart is your nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. So you can decide to use a dartless pattern to cut out this corset and go ahead to cut out your bra cup. So now I'll go ahead to place my ruler and draw out a straight line. After I'm done doing that, I'll be taking my dart intake. But before marking my dart intake, I'll mark my basic measurement so that I'll go ahead to divide the rest of my shoulder into 2, and I'll place my ruler to connect. The next step is to go ahead to mark my dart. And for my dart intake, I'll be marking 1 inch on both sides of my pattern. Now I'll go ahead to connect. If you're a plus size or you're a bit busty, please go ahead to use 1 inch. 1.5 on both sides. So I went ahead to connect, and I'll be using my marker to outline to make it more visible for you to see. Now the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to connect from my bust to my under bust this way. But when connecting, make sure you have about ½ inch or 1 inch after your bust line so that your cup won't be pointy. Now I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting on this part, the next step I'll take is to decide where your cup will stop at the over bust area. Now I'll be taking my dart intake. So I marked 2 inches for my shoulder dart, and I'll go ahead to connect. After this, I'll just go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. So I'll pick this very little dart I have on the over bust, which is about 0.3. I'll mark and add ½ inch for my sewing allowance. So next, I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and mark my under bust measurement, replace it, the dart I took there, and add ½ inch. So for the waistline, I want to take out 2 inches from my waistline. My waist is 28 minus 2, I'll have 26. If I divide that 26, whatever I have, I'll mark. Measure the 2 inches dart intake, replace, and add ½ inch for my pattern. So now I'll be going over to the blouse length, which is about 5 inches after my waistline. So I marked my hip circumference divided by 4, measured my dart intake, which I took there, replaced it, and I added my sewing allowance. Now I'll just go ahead to connect all the lines. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also leave your comment at the comment section. So after I'm done marking this out, before continuing with my pattern, I'll go ahead to use my marker to mark it out. Then we'll go ahead to draft out the cup area. So now I'll come in by ½ inch at my bust point, and I'll go in by ½ inch. Now I'll place my curve drew, and I'll connect to that point. So after this, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this point. Now the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to draw out my cup. So now I'll pick a point which is about 2 inches here, and I'll look at what I have at the cup at the over bust. So I'll try to draw out that cup styling there. So just like I said, you can use a dartless pattern where you draft out your cup and then go ahead to place it on your dartless pattern and shape it out. So I extended this over to the armhole area, and next I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I will add 1/2 inch. Now I'll place my curve drew and I will go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'll come down by 1/2 inch from my bust point. Now I'll connect, blend in my corset cup, and I'll take this all the way to the other side. But before doing that, I want to mark my bust dart. So to get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist at the front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist at the front is 17 inches, while my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. So if you subtract 15.5 from 17, it will give you 1.5. So I blended out my cup before going ahead to draw out my 3-piece cup, because I don't want the dart lines to alter the cup. So now when I blend out my dart lines, the cup will turn out, the curve on the cup will be showing very well on the cup. Now the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to draw out the conical effect. So if you notice on this pattern, on the actual dress, it was actually close to the hip or fitted towards the hip area. So I added 1 inch after my hip. But after drawing out this conical effect, I went ahead to readjust it, because adding extra 1 inch to my hip might make it seem a little bigger than my hip. So what I did later was to adjust it by 1/2 inch. So at the front part, I came down by 1.5 inches and I went ahead to draw out the asymmetric hemline there. So this is what I have on this pattern right now. And the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead, blend out my dart lines, and I'm going to go ahead to cut out my pattern. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, leave your comment at the comment section. So I'll just go ahead and I'll cut out my pattern. So after cutting out my pattern, we'll also cut out the back pattern. So for the back pattern, I'm going to make it easy. I'm going to be using a dartless corset pattern for the back. So after cutting out the front pattern, this is what I have for the front, and we'll be moving over to the back pattern. Now on the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurements just like we did for the front. The only difference is that my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5, while my shoulder to waist in front is 17 inches. So on the bust, I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and add 1/2 inch. That same waistline I used for the front, that is what I'll use for the back. Here I marked my hip circumference divided by 4. Now I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to connect, drawing out a straight line starting from the bust to the waist and from the waist to the hip point. So now I'm going to be making use of this pattern so that the conical effect at the front and at the back will align. So just like I said, I went ahead to readjust the back a little because it was looking way too high and not really looking like what we have on the thumbnail. So I went ahead to trace out a little. Now place the front waistline on the back waistline. So after this, you're going to go ahead to connect your pattern this way. So this is what I have after I'm done connecting. I'll trace out the lower part. I didn't get to see the back, so I'll just move with something that is easy at the back pattern. So I went ahead to follow that line all the way to the end point of the pattern. So after that, I went ahead to outline my pattern, and this is what I have on this point. So the next step is to come in by 2 inches here, and I'll come in by 1. So go ahead to use whatever measurement of your choice. So I'll now go ahead to place and connect. After I'm done connecting at this point, just make a dot to indicate I have a lacing. Come down by 1/2 inch here and connect it to my chest line. So this is what I have for the back pattern, and I will just go ahead to cut it out. After cutting this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. So join us in our next video, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please go ahead to hit on the subscribe button.